Hi, we're looking at learning target F Retake Ticket. If you'll take a look at the front, there are 4 steps to solving the unknown sides of these special right triangles. The first step is to draw the appropriate base triangle, and so I want to do that in the space up above. The first triangle and one of the easier triangles is the 45, 45, 90 triangle. The first thing that we want to do is draw the 90-degree angle. I know that because my angles are 45 degrees right here, that they are going to be isosceles. This base triangle is a 1, and a square root 2 for our side lengths, and we will try and set up proportions using those side lengths to solve. The other triangle is a little bit harder to draw because we need to be careful that we at least recognize one of the sides needs to be the short side and one needs to be the long side. And so I'll put a 90-degree angle. This is obviously my short leg on the bottom, and this is my long leg. I start with the short leg. The short leg is always 1. Across from the 90 is 2. And then that third side, that leg, the shorter leg, being 1, the longer leg here is the square root of 3. So I'll use that as my base. Number 2 is going to ask us to set up the proportion. Number 3 will cross multiply, and number 4 will simplify if we have to. So let's look at number 1. I always like to draw the triangle in the same orientation. So this is an 11 and 11. That means that these angles are congruent here. This is a 45, 45, 90. I'm going to just roughly sketch in my appropriate triangle here. This is a 1, and a root 2. Again, I'm just looking back up above and drawing that same picture. And now it's just about setting up a proportion. If we match up the sides, we will see that this is a 1, which matches up with the 11. So I'll put 1 over 11, and that is equal to, now this is important, you have to start at the same triangle. So we started with the 1 here. I need to start with the root 2, and that matches up with the x. And so I will put root 2 on the top and x on the bottom. So we are at step 2. We just set up our proportion. Step 3 asks us to cross multiply. When I multiply this direction, 1 times x, I get x. And that is equal to, when I multiply in this direction, I've got 11 times root 2. And even though you could type that into your calculator, what we're going to ask you to do on these special right triangles is just simply leave them in simplified radical form. And this is our final answer. 11 root 2. If we look over to the next side, the next triangle is again an isosceles triangle, and so I'll draw my base triangle in the same orientation. It doesn't have to be exactly the same size, but we do want to make sure that we get the 90-degree corner in the upper left spot. And so I've got congruent parts here. That's a 1, and this is square root 2. We are trying to find a leg up here, and so I will match them up first. 1 matches up to x, so we've got 1 over x, and then root 2 matches up to 13. So I will say root 2 over 13. We cross multiply, so we've got 13 times 1 is 13, is equal to x times root 2, x root 2. At this point, we have some work that we need to do because x is not by itself. So we've got multiplication here. I need to divide both sides by the square root of 2. Square root of 2 will cancel out on this side, and now we have an answer of x equals 13 over root 2. And technically this is our answer, but we need to simplify this. And so this will happen more often in the B level, but still our problem solving is the same here. We're going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. So technically here we're multiplying by 1 because the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2 would be 1. What happens in the numerator is that it's just 13 root 2. What happens in the denominator is that 2 times 2 is 4. Now it's still underneath the square root, so we're sitting with the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. And that's our final answer. So that will do it for the two 45, 45, 90 examples. You always want to draw the triangle 1, 1, square root of 2, and set up your proportion. Now we'll go back to the bottom left corner here, and we will see what we can do with a 30, 60, 90. So here I can see that I've got a 30-degree angle here. Here's a 90. That leaves me with a 60-degree angle up here. I've got x and y that I need to solve because these are two different side lengths this time. So the first thing I will do is I will try to match up as best I can here where the 90 is. It's in the bottom left corner of my triangle. And I also want to make sure that it's obvious that here's my short leg. That matches up with my short leg here. Here's the long leg on the bottom. That matches up with this long leg here. Now the short leg is a length of 1. The hypotenuse has a length of 2, and that just leaves us with a square root of 3 for the long leg. Match up the ones you know first. I've got this 5 matches up with this 1. So I can put 5 over 1 is equal to, and then it's your call what you want to solve first. I will solve the x first, and so I've got x, and that matches up with the root 3. Again, x must go in the numerator if you are going to solve, from one triangle to the next. Okay, so just matching it up that way. Here we are cross multiplying, so we need to multiply this way. Is x times 1 is just x, and in the other direction 5 times root 3 is 5 root 3. And once you have x by itself, you're done. And here we have x by itself, we can stop. But we do need to still find y. So I'm going to go right back to my first proportion, the 5 over 1. I think that's one that we can use again. But this time I'm not going to set it equal to x over root 3. I know what x is. Now I need to find y. So I will take y and I will match it up with 2. We cross multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times y is y. And here again we have already solved for us, or by itself is y. And so our final answer is y equals 10. All right, the fourth example is another 30, 60, 90 triangle. We've got a 30-degree angle here, 60 degrees left over in the top, 90 in the upper right corner. I'm going to try to match that up as best I can. My short side here is the x, and so I'm going to put the 1 there. The hypotenuse across from the 90 is always 2, and the leg is root 3. So this time I will have to solve for a couple of different sides. I've got the long leg this time instead of the short leg. But we're still going to match up the two sides we know. So I've got the 11 and I've got the root 3. So it's 11 root, 11 divided by root 3. And to set up x, I will just match up x with 1. Cross multiply. X times root 3 is root 3 times x, and that's equal to the other direction. 11 times 1 is 11. Here we're back in the same situation like we were on the second triangle up above. We need to divide root 3 by both sides. X is equal to 11 over root 3. And this technically is our final answer, but of course, again, we cannot leave a root in the denominator, so we need to multiply root 3 this time, top and bottom. Root 3 times root 3 becomes root 9. We know that the square root of 9 is 3, so we can put a 3 on the bottom. The top becomes 11 root 3. Just multiplying straight across the top for those two fractions. The last thing that we'll need to do is solve for y. So I will have to set up the same proportion to start. I want to begin with 11 over root 3. But this time I'm going to solve for y, so I'm going to match up the y with the 2. Y over 2. Quick cross multiply and you will see that you end up in a similar situation. This time we have 11 times 2 on the other side, and so we will have a 22 here. But we want to get y by itself, so I will divide by root 3. Y is equal to 22 over root 3, and we are going to again multiply top and bottom by root 3. So a pretty predictable pattern. Whenever you see a root in the denominator, you're really going to follow suit by just multiplying by that exact root. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, so I will end up with a 3 in the denominator. 22 times root 3 is just 22 root 3. And so our final answer, y equals 22 root 3 over 3. And for our x, it was 11 root 3 over 3. So not much more we can do to simplify that one, but it certainly is the final answer. Please flip this sheet over and practice these problems on your own before you are ready to retake.